correct me if I'm wrong, but last year the women's team finishes 8th at
Right.
nationals. The year before, the men were 4th.
Fourth, yeah. Yeah, we've had some, we've been fortunate to have some good kids come in here, and I don't do a lot other than point directions and ask them to work hard, and they tend to follow through. So, but last year was, on the women's side, outcome of 8th at nationals was almost nothing short of amazing. I mean, I think they truly overachieved last year. We were a team that I think realistically we're a 10 to 15 ranked school all year. But at nationals, they sure stepped it up a notch, and it was, a great feeling for them. They had a goal at the beginning of the year to finish in the top 8 at nationals, so they hit that goal. So that was amazing. The guys, I think most schools would take being ranked 15th or finishing 15th at nationals as a good outcome. We didn't feel that way. We had a team that was far more talented than that. We just ended up the year with some injuries and illnesses that just hit us at the worst time. Our 2 worst races of the years were conference and then nationals, and that's disappointing. I mean, at the time it was very disappointing. I mean, it's still disappointing now to a certain extent, but if there's any silver lining from it, the guys already this year are pretty motivated, and part of it too, and I'll be honest, we got probably overconfident. We got a little arrogant about how good we were, or how good we thought we were last year, and I think that was a very, very humbling experience for them and for me as well. So I think we've got a very good attitude to start this season off, and I'll be surprised if that happens again in a long time. So, but we're excited about this year as it is already.
Mike, I think last year I asked you this question. That's a big roster you're carrying again this year. Can you, because I remember talking to you about that last year, how does that help you, and why such a larger roster?
Well, there's good and bad things about having a roster that size. I think most of the negatives are pretty easily identifiable. But the nice thing is that it forces them to push each other. We have at a conference meet, we're only allowed to run 12 at the conference meets, so everybody wants to put on a uniform, and you've got to earn the right to put on that uniform. So not only from everyday workouts to races themselves, it becomes a much more competitive environment. And then when we get to the national level, we can only run 7. And so, it takes it up a whole nother notch there at that point in time. It's okay, if you want to be in that 7, you're going to have to work really hard. We work hard to maintain a very positive, competitive environment. That it's not a cutthroat, we're racing every day kind of a thing. We really push the team part of it, that you're there to represent the team. And if you're the one that gets a chance to represent that team, that's a good thing, and everybody's out there working together. It's challenging for me. It was challenging last year at nationals. I mean, we had some guys that, like I said, got sick and hurt, and we had to have some people step up at the end of the year that really did that. It's kind of like basketball. If your second 5 is almost as good as your first 5, you got a pretty good competitive environment every day. I mean, I think of John Wooden, who was one year's freshman team, beat his national championship team from the year before when they weren't even allowed to play at the time. So I'm not sure we're quite to John Wooden levels yet, but we're working our way there.
On the men's side, Mike, what kind of turnover has there been? How many kids did you lose, and how many did you bring in?
Well, I'd have to actually do some counting. I think when you look at losses, our 2 biggest losses were seniors from last year that graduated. Dave Marks, All-American, finishes 5th in the country. He was a great team leader the last couple of years. And then we also lost Jimmy Arribo, another senior who didn't perform as well as we'd hoped at nationals, but if it worked for him throughout the season, and especially at the conference meet, we might have not even been at nationals last year. So those are two guys we're definitely going to miss from an upperclassman as well as a competitive standpoint. But we've got some guys, I think, ready to step in. We've definitely got some new guys as well that are ready to hopefully take on some roles here very soon.
And I guess who are the guys that you're kind of looking at to take those top spots?
Well, I think initially you almost have to look back to track season last year and how we finished up at track. you know, we ended up with 3 All-Americans at the outdoor championships. Sam, who did not run at cross country nationals last year because he was sick, finishes 3rd in the 5K at outdoor. The 2 guys that beat him in cross country went 1-2. They were both seniors. So if you start doing some little math like I might do, you might look at, you know, Sam's looking at a guy who's definitely got a shot at winning the national individual title this year. You know, that's easy to say. We don't know who else is out there, but he's definitely one. And then Hayden Randall finished as an All-American in the steeplechase last year. I think his confidence definitely has had a big boost from that. We changed some training in the last spring, and it was one of those, we're going in feet first and jumping in, and he bought into it and performed extremely well there. And Park McLaughlin, who also at Outdoor Nationals, another All-American in the 800, who when we were at conference and nationals last year was also sick and hurt. So, and then we had another national qualifier that didn't run at nationals last year. I wouldn't let him because I didn't feel like he had the miles under his belt enough to run in the marathon. That's what he qualified in Nick Pearson. He's also a senior this year. So, you know, we've got definitely some upperclassmen that will be expected to provide some leadership, not just athletically, but also within the social environment of the team as well. We've got some new guys that are going to step in there. We've you know, we just had our team retreat this last weekend, and kind of my first chance to really see them moving, and it's going to be very competitive within that group.
I guess I'm sorry, what are your names?
I'm Hayden.
Hayden.
Yeah, I'm Nick.
And Nick. Okay. With Dave and Jimmy gone now, I don't know, what is it like without those guys? Do you kind of feel a burden to kind of step up a little bit in the team?
I'd say so. I mean, Dave was a big mainstay in the program, and I mean, definitely one of the most talented runners I've ever got the opportunity to train with. So, and he's also a really great leader. So, I mean, with him gone, it was kind of a pressure to step up. But I mean, I've been waiting kind of 3 years to step up and take the reins. And when you get guys like that, you learn from them, and you know, see what they do in the program and make it successful, and kind of learn from them. And so it's kind of like polishing you to eventually take the reins.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel.
Yeah.
It's a big loss, but I think that we have the drive this year to really kind of try and fill in those spots, or at least group it up, do better than we did last year.
Well, and you know, last year, 15th at nationals. Is that something? Do you just try to forget about that, or do you use that as motivation going into this year?
Well, you never want to dwell on a race like that, because I mean, it's the past. It happens. There's nothing to go back and change it. Just throw it in the fire for more motivation. I mean, I know that all the returners and even the freshmen, just hearing about it, we were chomping at the bit to get back at conference, because that's a race that, I mean, we want it back. Like, we believe that we're one of the best teams in the nation, and I've had November circled on my calendar since we started summer training. So,
Coach, maybe talk about that. As you guys have established national prominence, your conference has sort of come along right with you guys now to this point. The competitiveness in the conference has really gone up. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely, you know, the bar's been raised for everybody, and you know, we'll take a little bit of credit for that, because, you know, until somebody beat us, you know, to qualify for nationals, it had to go through us. You know, and last year that happened. You know, we did get beat, and you know, I think it opens up everybody else from the standpoint of that we are susceptible, we can be beaten, and provides a little bit of hope there. But you know, on the other side of it, you know, it makes us better too. It's just like those daily workouts that, you know, we get out there, and every team we race is going to bring their very best against us. We've got to be ready to race day in and day out at those competitions. So I like the competition. I just assume everybody in the conference is very competitive, because it'll make us that much better. By the time we get to nationals, we're far more tested as well.
Nick and Hayden, I have a pretty good idea about how Coach feels about it, but just tell me a little bit about what it means to you guys to be able to compete for the conference championship here in Lewiston, and and just kind of what sort of extra boost that gives you and the rest of the team to be able to compete to get to nationals here.
Being our senior year, it's pretty nice to have it at home. We're familiar with the course. I'm gonna really like having it here, not having to travel anywhere, be comfortable. It's gonna mean a lot more to me, I think, having it in Lewiston, and it's gonna be a competitive race, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think everybody else is too.
I agree with that. I mean, that's where we train. It's our hometown. It's where we run every day. It's kind of like a duty to defend it. And you're not going to let any other team come in and just try to take it from us. And, I mean, we studied that course. We ran on it a bunch. And looking forward to conference and having it here. I mean, that's just gets me excited just talking about it.
Yeah, I've been doing some just easy runs in the summer. I just go up to the course and I just run on it for a good 45 minutes to an hour, just looping it, just getting used to it.
And that, like the race you guys had there last year at that course, now, was that just a regular season event?
Yeah, we had, last year we were in the rotation for what they call the Inland Empire Championships. So it's us and U of I, WSU, but basically most of the schools in this general Inland Empire area. This year WSU was supposed to host it, but they're hosting Pac-12s a year from now, so they asked to put it off a year, and so I bumped up and said, hey, we'll take it again if nobody else wants it, and it gives us a chance to kind of do a run through before we host conference, and it should be very competitive this year as well. Last year I thought the racing was great. I love the course. I mean, it's a great one to be able to go up and watch. You can see everything. We've already asked, Carol's asked to come over to it this year as well. College of Idaho, who's women last year, finished second in the country. They're coming up this year, and we've had a few other inquiries. So I think that meet's going to be bigger. We've made a few course changes, working with the city on trying to do a few things there that I think will make the course even a little bit better. And we're just excited to have our own course. It's all it's there for us to run on, and I think it's a great place for the public to be able to come and see as well. So.
And it was last year. It was not quite done. Is that right?
Yeah, it was all dirt last year. Unfortunately for us, it rained pretty hard a couple of days before and hardened it up. We planted some grass on it this last spring. Some of it's kind of taken, some of it hasn't, but it'll be all grass and dirt. We're hoping a year from now it'll be this nice little green vein up on the fields up there. So, but no, it should be real good for running on. I mean, it's a great surface to run on, and I think a very fair one. It's not all flat, it's not all hills. We've got a nice mix, and I think it just makes for good cross country racing.
I guess, guys, running on it, what does stand out about it? Mike's saying it's. What do you think about that course compared to other courses that you run on?
Well, I think it's deceptive. As you look at it, you look at most courses, you can see, oh, there's a hill there, it's downhill here. There's a really long downhill for the first half of the first lap, and then when you turn around, you don't realize how far down you've gone, and you got to go back up. So I think that is a little different than most courses. It's still, it's a great course. You can see where you're going to be, I don't know, 800 meters ahead of time almost. So, okay, I've got this coming up. I'm going to do this when I get there type thing, like surges. And I like it because you can kind of see into the future, and then it's kind of deceptive at the same time.
Mm.
But, yeah.
It's more of a traditional, it's turning into what's more of kind of the European style of racing, where you can see what's happening throughout a race. Trying to make it more spectator friendly, cross country in general, around the world. This is kind of how it's going. We also designed it to try to meet USA track and field requirements and NCAA requirements, so it could be hopefully at some point in time, a future host site for some other championship type races besides just ours. So.
Have you guys had a conference championship in town before?
We hosted the very first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while now.
That's rotated through. It's back to us now. So yeah, we hosted the very first one out of Hell's Gate.
And a change this year, Mike. The national race is moved from Vancouver to
Yeah.
and you get a preview of that That's something that's new. I don't think,
Yeah,
we
we-
never went to Vancouver before that.
We've never gone to a preview meet. When it was hosted in Vancouver, they didn't have one. We would have gone if they had one, especially since it's so close. Being in Kansas, budgets are always tight, and I kind of spent a good portion of last spring and the summer kind of thinking and deciding, one, could we even afford to do it, and would it be worth it, and I think if you can get the opportunity to do it, you want to do it. It's just, can we make everything happen? And so getting to go back there and see that course at the University of Kansas is important, just to be able to race on it and see it and to prepare for it. That was one thing about Vancouver. After the first year, okay, now we know what's going on. We know what this course is like. I can better prepare physically, my athletes for what's happening, and they have a chance to actually see it. The struggle is going to be is that, it's a little bit past midway in the season, and so when we get on it, I'm not taking the entire team. I'm only taking 7 or 8 individuals from each team. I'm going to make the best decision I can at that point in time as to who those people are, but that doesn't necessarily mean those are the people that will be running at nationals, assuming we even qualify. But giving them an opportunity to run on it, they can share that with their teammates. This is what it's like, and I have a pretty good number of friends from the University of Kansas, including a very close one that ran at Kansas, who helped to build that course. So we've got a little inside information, at least, without actually being on the course ahead of time.
How many teams will compete at that?
Boy, I am expecting 30 or 40. I mean, a large portion of the NEI schools are in the Midwest, and that's a drivable race for them. I don't know how many people are going to be doing like us, flying out there to see it ahead of time, but I would think that would be, hopefully we'll get the same advantage that those regional schools will have with being on it. In Vancouver, nobody had advantages, nobody could run on it. So I think it helps to even the field out a little bit for us. Really exciting though, assuming we make it.
Jumping into the women's roster a little bit, maybe even starting with Sophie Bush down here on the end. Last year's conference meet, you had Kletke and Layton. I believe they finished 2nd and 4th, and you were right down there about 9th or something. And now being the one who's going to be looked at to kind of lead the way, what are your thoughts on this season?
Our team looks really strong right now. We have a few new girls who should help out a lot, but I know looking from last year, we just talked about this, we have Nicole Delavu and myself that ran at nationals last year, and then everyone else is gone. So we're going to be, working to fill those spots, but I think we should be fine. We have girls that are ready to step up and run fast this year. So.
I mean, Coach, you continue with that thought.
We had a team meeting with the gals, and that was one of the things that I tried to point out to them was that, that not only what I see, but what the rest of the country is going to see when it comes to that first preseason poll that comes out next week is that, we finished 8th at nationals, but we only returned 2 of those 7 people that ran. So really, how good are we? Sophie's got a lot of weight to bear. As the top returner, Nicole as well has got some responsibility there. But we have a large number of girls that are returning on the team, just didn't make the national team last year. And obviously as an 8th place team, it was a good team. And so not making that team isn't necessarily a negative in their abilities. I think it's just, you're just on a competitive team that you're just first one out, second one out. So we've got some returning girls that I know have been working very, very hard this summer to not be excluded from that group. And then we've got a large number of new young ladies that I think are going to be very competitive. I think it may take a race or 2 for them to kind of get a feel for collegiate running and what's going to happen out there. But they're all getting along real well already, and I think that mesh within the program itself is already looking very, very positive for us. So.
Mike, could you talk specifically about some of them that you kind of expect to jump up?
Well, with the new girls, I think the first one's going to come to mind is Rachel Cundy. She's a sophomore transfer from Everett Community College. She's definitely got some talent. Last spring, she went 17:39 for 5K. She actually qualified for the U.S. Outdoor Track and Field Championships this last summer and went back and ran. So she's got some good competitive experience. She's run some good times. It's just where will she fit in here? Because I mean, she came from a very, very talented community college program. She wasn't even their best runner, and so can she take on some of that responsibility of being a leader? We're going to find out. And we've got 3 or 4 other girls that have all run under 20 minutes for 5K, and it'll be exciting to see how well they can adapt. And we talked about limits and limitations and not setting barriers with these gals, and I think that's for some of them when it comes to running, is you get times on a clock that are breaking 20 minutes for the first time, and now you've broken through. It's like, these are just arbitrary numbers we just throw out there that, if they follow Sophie's lead and some of the other gals and just say, not worry about what the clock says or what's happening, just I can run with Sophie, and as long as Sophie's doing well, we're doing good, and if Sophie's not doing well, hopefully somebody else will step up and say, okay, I'll take it today. And that's kind of how they do it in workouts as well. They take turns taking the lead and being up front, so that should be. I'm pretty excited. I mean, I'm curious to see how the national rankings are going to come out with the women's team, because it's one of those where people are going to look at it as there's so many losses there. How can you really think that you're a top 25 team anymore? And I mean, right now we've got the longest streak in the country for being ranked in the top 25, which could come to a very quick end here very soon if people don't believe what we have coming in. So,
have you? With either club, have you guys set specific goals at nationals yet?
I don't think the women have said anything yet. I think they're still feeling some stuff out to see where they're at. The men, yeah, they've already talked about it. I mean, they want to win. So I think that's on the board as winning a national title this fall. The thing we kind of temper that just a little bit with, we can't control it how other teams run. If somebody else is having a great day and running great, we're not going to put up a defense. There's not much we can do about that. We'll just go out and run as best we can. Hopefully the challenge will bring even more out of us and give us a shot, if that's what the case is. But I think if we take care of business, we'll be one of those teams that's got to be looked at, in the top 4 to 5. I think we're more talented this year than we were when we finished 4th.
Sophie, these guys kind of talked about it, having the chance to have the conference meet here in town. You guys probably pretty excited about that, right?
Yeah, it should be a big advantage for us, because we can have practices up there and get used to the course a lot more than if we had to travel and go somewhere else. And I know a lot of the girls will appreciate being able to sleep in their own bed the night before and kind of stick to routine and stuff, rather than having to go through all of what we do when we travel. So.
And these guys kind of talked about it too. What's sort of your description of this course? How does it compare to other ones you run on?
It is challenging, and it's, as far as last year goes, when we had the meet here, it kind of caught me off guard, but because I wasn't expecting the hill to be that long and feel that way. But I think this year we'll be more ready for it, and it does seem like it's going to be a better condition for us to run on it too. So.
Mm-hmm. And your role this year, being one of the main leaders on the women's team, are you kind of wrapped your mind around that? Are you comfortable being in that spot?
Yeah, I am. Mm-hmm. I feel like our whole class is pretty full of strong leaders. We have a lot of experience. I know coming out of high school, a lot of us were top runners and team captains and stuff. And then you add in Rachel Cundy, and she's a natural leader too, I think. So we have a lot of experience, I think, in that way.
Something a little different this year, Mike. You got a lot of the student assistants, including Kelsey and Chelsea, that had such great careers with you.
Yeah.
How do they incorporate themselves into what you do?
Well, I think that's a good question, and I'm not sure how that may actually affect things. Chelsea's actually been out running with the group. I mean, she's still got a season of eligibility in track, so we are we're preparing her for the marathon next spring, so that's part of the motivation there, and keeping her in touch. Kelsey's due to graduate this December, and so keeping her in touch with the program, and I think at times she'll be a nice backboard to the gals that are there that already know her. I think her influence and effect with a lot of the new gals, it won't be. I'd be surprised if it would be very strong, just because they just don't know her other than what they've seen and heard, and that's probably a good thing. I think there's certain things and certain people that it's good to have them there, to rely upon them as sources for certain things, but then on the other side, this team needs to develop its own identity, and Kelsey is still a part of this team in that regard, but she's not she's not a 2013 cross country team person, and this team needs to realize that we've got to do our own thing, as much as the team is obviously has relied upon and benefit from her performances in the past. That she'll still be there. She'll definitely have some input. Definitely give me a good person to bounce things off of. Hey, what do you think? Some of the insights that maybe as an athlete she wasn't always willing to share. But maybe I'll get a little more insight now with a few things here and there. So.